I've been sharing with people over the last couple of months that hearing this program is critical if you're looking to make your daily decisions in life. And in order to hear that you've got to actually make sure that your ears are in good shape. We've been recommending you give a telephone call or reach out and get in touch with Dr. Christine Pickup in Rupert, Idaho, Doctor of Audiology. It's called Mount Harrison Audiology at 1218 9th Street, Unit number 2 in Rupert. Telephone number is 208-312-0957. She's also available online at mountharrisonaudiology.com. Did you know, in fact, that the inner ear is affected by your cardiovascular and kidney health? In fact, the inner ear is very sensitive to changes in your blood supply. If you've had recent heart problems or kidney problems, you should have your hearing checked right away. And if she does find an issue, she can help you come up with some sort of remedy on all of that. Quickly, I got to get to a couple of things here. I'll get to my telephones in a couple of minutes again, but talking about this whole Benghazi situation and how lying has now become virtuous, especially among the American left. What was it Harry Reid said when it was pointed out that he helped bring down Mitt Romney, his co-religionist, by the way, sheerly through lying? And Reid says, "Yes, but we won." Yeah, I'm impressed by that, aren't you? 9:35. So there was a woman speaking on MSDNC the other day with Andrea Mitchell. The woman's name is Patricia Smith. Patricia Smith had a son by the name of Sean Smith. He was among the 4 killed in Benghazi. And Patricia Smith says that she was lied to directly by Hillary Clinton, and Patricia Smith did not have a kindly exchange with Andrea Mitchell.
Her defense is that diplomats and people like your son make terrible sacrifices, your son the ultimate sacrifice, in defense of diplomacy and American values, and that we can't retreat from these front lines. What is your reaction to that?
I think they should have covered his back. All of those people that were there, every one of them that worked for our government because they wanted to. They wanted to do the right thing, and they did what they were supposed to, knowing that our government would have their back. They did not. And I'm still waiting for an explanation as to why my son died. The contractors that were there they were told to stand down 3 times. Hillary has denied this. I don't know why. She won't give me an explanation. They won't tell me why this happened. But nobody came to help him. And there were people that were available. The guys from the security department was ready to go. They were told to stand down, and they finally went on their own. They said they could have saved the ambassador's life and my son's life if they would have been allowed to go. Now, please tell me, why weren't they allowed to go?
I know there's been a lot of dispute about that, but the fact is that the closest military were hours and hours away, and that the command has now been moved a lot closer. That's one of the so-called reforms afterwards. But
it would take 9 hours for this thing to be
exactly.
over. During that time, somebody should be able to go there and help. Even a drone. And I understand there was a drone. They were watching. What were they watching if nothing was happening?
Yeah, of course they were watching it all. And I've mentioned before, Sicily is not very far from Benghazi. And this notion that these jets that travel at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles per hour couldn't be there and pinpointing a little ordnance on the bad guys is a bunch of bunk. Andrea Mitchell is repeating the talking points from Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And with that, Patricia Smith just gets very, very upset.
They sacrificed him as they sacrificed the ambassador and the 2 guys that got murdered because nobody sent help. I want to know why. Why wasn't there any help?
Patricia Smith, I am so sorry for your loss. And
you can't understand. You just can't understand. My only child was murdered, and nobody will tell me why.
Patricia Smith.
He was the only thing that was going to help me when I get old. I'm old now. Now who do I listen to? Who's going to help me now? He's not around and the government won't talk to me.
Now, over at MSDNC, they're already getting their marching orders from Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and she's saying, "Don't have that woman on again." And Andrea Mitchell is saying, "Yes, master, yes." 9:38. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Over at Politico, which was a magazine that admitted it was in the tank for Barack Obama in 2008. In fact, even came out and said, so what, when it was accused of that. Very, very left-leaning magazine. A writer there today says, though, why were there no records of any contact between Clinton and the beleaguered Chris Stevens, the man she'd, quote, personally, unquote, chosen to handle Libya for nearly 4 months after she'd sworn him in as an ambassador? She went on to say, well, I have ambassadors in 270 countries. I can't possibly be dealing with one, just exclusively one. In fact, fellow travelers such as Maureen Dowd at the New York Times said, yeah, Hillary, gosh, she's got to be right there because I want Hillary. I think she's pretty. I'd like to have her babies, and we want to ensure that first woman president is a liberal. Well, this liberal writer at Politico goes on to say, fair enough, but the ambassadors to Germany and Singapore and Peru aren't working night and day to prevent those countries from breaking up in a bloodbath of extremism. They were left out to dry in Libya because Clinton and Obama had so bungled it after the killing of Gaddafi, they were just trying to wash their hands of it, and they still are today. 20 minutes away from 10 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. In fact, a couple of comments about Benghazi came out of the debate last night. We get a chance, we'll share what Marco Rubio had to say. And you could just see liberal media swallowing, thinking, oh, geez, how are we going to cover up this one? Well, the Benghazi story, despite the fact that, the allies of Hillary Clinton in mainstream media would like it to go away, and they're telling you it's all over with now, there are some people who are simply not going to let it go away. Great piece today in the Washington Examiner, which says, the Democrats keep screaming and saying, well, it shouldn't be intruding on the primary season. You're just dragging this out. The White House, after a full year, just finally delivered the goods that the committee had asked for. So who's delaying what? Yeah, but, Hillary's great and so is Barack and you Republicans are all bad. So we over here in mainstream media, we don't want to hear that. What's that you say? I didn't hear a word of it. 9:44. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Marco Rubio had an opportunity last night to share some of his thoughts about how this works while he was dealing with the fellow travelers from CNBC.
Now, the Democrats have the ultimate super PAC. It's called the mainstream media. Whoever's seen a day, and I'll tell you why. Last week, Hillary Clinton went before a committee. She admitted she had sent emails to her family saying, hey, this attack in Benghazi was caused by al-Qaeda-like elements. She spent over a week telling the families of those victims and the American people that it was because of a video. And yet the mainstream media is going around saying it was the greatest week in Hillary Clinton's campaign. It was the week she got exposed as a liar. It was the week that she got exposed as a liar in Benghazi. But she has her super PAC helping her out, the American mainstream media.
Yeah, but we moral degenerates over here in mainstream media, we're liars too. What are you talking about? Lying's cool because she's a Democrat. 9:44. And you Republicans are just mean. You Republicans don't want to bankrupt the country. You Republicans want to cancel the free lunch. You are mean, mean, mean. Bill Colley with you on Top Story. The number to reach our program today, 736-0300, 736-0300. Of course, my email is bill.colley@townsquaremedia.com. That's bill.colley@townsquaremedia.com. Last name spelled Colley. Now, the usual liberal response is, you're fat and you're mean and you're stupid and so's Louis Gohmert. As one of our, English language challenged callers likes to say. That guy reminds me of a sad, sad tale. You hear him call once in a while on the program and, he stumbles and fumbles because his English isn't very good. And apparently he seems to think he's brilliant when he screams out names at people and the like and then hangs up after 10 seconds. If I'm really loud, that must mean I'm winning the argument. There's a terrible, terrible side of that I think he's really bringing harm to his own ethnicity. When I was a kid, and maybe it was because we watched too many Speedy Gonzales cartoons, there was a stereotype that went around, and it said that people, Latinos, especially, coming from Mexico, the stereotype that was produced by those cartoons was that they were fat, lazy, and stupid. And then you grow up and you find out that that's not very nice, and that's not the truth. And in fact, they're really in good shape. They really work hard, In fact, they're the hardest workers you're probably ever going to come across. And now you know why those cartoons aren't shown on American TV, because it's not just political correctness, but it did give a really terrible impression of our neighbors to the south. And then, unfortunately, this guy calls up the radio show, and you know what? He turns around and helps revive that stereotype. Now, why would he do that to his own people? Why would you go out of your way to give the impression that you all just want to lay around and just collect from the government, and that the government somehow owes you a living? Come now. I mean, don't you have any self-reliance on your part? Or have you bought into this argument that the Democrat Party is just going to play Santa Claus for so long that you think or you believe you're entitled to whatever they give you? It's 9:47. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. You know, he doesn't hang around long enough when he says, oh, you know, Louis Gohmert. Yeah, Louis Gohmert. Well, okay, explain to us what's bad about, what's your evidence about Louis Gohmert other than you don't like him? Other than that he has actually stood there and witnessed people sneaking across the border. And sneaking across the border is a criminal act. We keep hearing, well, they don't know any better. They think it's okay. Well, then why do they come in the dark of the night and they come through tunnels or locked up in the back of trucks or underneath the holes of rail cars? Because they know they're breaking the laws. Now, if I go over and I kick down your back door and I come in and I empty your refrigerator, I am a burglar and I am a thief. If you're promoting that type of behavior in this country, no wonder that we have no morality left and that lying gets you can score points by it and that people won't call you out for it. That is the liberal mindset. It's got nothing to do with ethnicity. It is the liberal mindset. Because they don't believe in the Bible. They don't believe in a Christian formation any longer. That's do as you please. And whatever the spur of the moment pleases them, then that's okay. So while you're sitting around pleasuring yourselves, maybe you need to stand back for a minute and realize it's not doing you any good and it's not doing the country any good. What did the old hag say? It takes a village? Well, let me tell you something. At least it takes a village when it comes to respecting your neighbors and obeying the laws. We've got Mike Gallagher coming up in just a short while. Bill Colley with you this morning on Top Story. Gallagher is brought to you exclusively by the financial advisors at Waddell & Reed in Twin Falls. The telephone number is 736-6563. That telephone number again is 736-6563. You know, it's funny. When I was a young guy, I started out sort of as a libertarian and then became a little more liberal and maybe a lot more liberal while I was in college and figured, somebody was going to owe me something and that those big, bad corporate people that they were just looking to take from me, that those corporate CEOs, they sat around late at night and went, how they were best going to rip me off. And then later on, I actually ended up meeting a few of them because I had to interview them. People like, in fact, got to meet him one time. He was a great guy, Lee Iacocca. Don't know that I would have agreed with him on every one of his political views, but I got to meet him and I got to interview him, and then you realize, well, wait a minute. He's worried about keeping his job. His job is basically to increase profits so his shareholders can make some money, so the shareholders can put some money away for their children's college education, to buy a home, and maybe, actually have a little bit extra now and then so they might be able to go out to dinner or on a vacation. What's wrong with all of that? And that was the eye-opener for me. And I started to realize, hey, nobody owes me a living out there. The world doesn't owe me a living. I got to do it on my own. As I said, Mike Gallagher is on the way in just a moment. Then we'll have some closing thoughts. Speaking of liberals, some of our neighbors in Oregon are so unwilling to actually have a deer hunt. They're willing to be bullied by the neighborhood deer. Details coming up. Of course, Hillary Clinton, the admitted liar, she actually was allowed to host Saturday Night Live, and liberals didn't have a problem with that now, did they? Donald Trump, on the other hand, said some people who are coming here, immigrants who are coming here, are rapists and murderers, and that's a problem for Lefty. Well, is Lefty then trying to tell us that none of the people coming here, the illegal immigrants, are murderers and rapists? Not one of them. Other than, okay, that guy who shot Kate Steinle. Well, then Donald Trump is correct when he said some of them are rapists and murderers. 9:54. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 46. Came across this morning on the Fox News feed, and I got to tell you, it just sums up the liberal mindset. We know that just to our west, across the mountain range, is a state called Oregon, and at least on the coastal portions of Oregon and in the university towns, it's filled with Bernie Sanders-style leftists. And Bernie Sanders-style leftists, they don't want to eat meat. They don't want anybody else to eat meat. So they're very concerned that their community has been invaded by deer. And deer, of course, apparently are like the Russians. They can smell weakness, so they go around when they see a wimp. Apparently, deer are going around and actually attacking some of these wimpy Oregonians. This is a story from FNC, that is Fox News Channel's Dan Springer, and he explains people who wouldn't hunt can't come to an agreement about how to deal with all of the nasty deer.
Some residents of Ashland, Oregon say they're under attack, not from gangs or criminals, but from deer. Hundreds roam the city with no fear of humans, and in recent years, many residents have reported being chased and attacked by aggressive deer. One woman was knocked down. Another, Carol Walker, says she's been stalked 3 times.
I left a friend's house with my dog, and we were walking up an alley, and this deer came charging out from nowhere. That's the thing, they appear from nowhere.
Complaints of property damage and deer attacks got so frequent the city recently held a deer summit. Despite 55 deer car collisions a year in the city, officials are taking no action. They've talked about education, relocation, and even deer birth control. But a deer kill, which has been done in numerous U.S. cities, is dead on arrival. In Ashland, Oregon, Dan Springer, Fox News Radio.
Now, there you go. We can hunt them down, we can shoot them, and then we can feed the poor and stock the food pantries. And Libby says, no. Might hurt that poor deer. And good gosh, we wouldn't want to kill the creatures. They may be invading our community, and they're beating us up on every corner. But here, it's a deer, for crying out loud. It's one of the most docile animals on the planet. And yet these liberal wimps, oh, they're stalking me. Cue the Jaws music. Do you think perhaps that liberals, what is it Michael Savage has said? Liberalism is a mental disorder or mental disease. Yeah, there's evidence of it. We've got about 50 seconds left. You get the last word today. You're up next on KLIX.
Yes, I was just calling to find out if Ryan voted for the budget deal, why is he now trying to distance himself?
Did he vote for it?
He did. He voted for it.
The only thing, when I looked at the list, I looked to see what our own delegation did, of course. I wasn't looking for Ryan this morning just because I was working on editing all of the debate material.
Yeah, we know Simpson voted for it. What else would he do?
Right.
But Ryan was. I also saw Ryan from Wisconsin on the list.
Because, Boehner came in and Simpson came in, dressed like Igor and said, yes, whatever you want. And he went ahead and voted for it.
Yeah, that kind of confused me when I saw that Ryan voted for it. Now he's distancing himself from it and saying all kinds of bad things.
He was for it before he was against it.
Exactly.
Thank you. If he got hoodwinked, then, this is going to be quite scary. If a guy is that dang dumb. I had to pause for a moment there because I had to clean that up. If he's that dang dumb, then why would you want him serving as the Speaker of the House of Representatives? Unless, of course, the fix is, again, has been put in, as it always is. We'll tell the voters one thing, and we'll hold the curtain up and do something else behind it. Then we'll come back and show them that photograph of Ronald Reagan and say, hey, it's Ronald Reagan. See, I'm a conservative. Rush Limbaugh will have a lot of debate material coming up following 10 o'clock news from Fox. You can stick around, I hope.